Hey guys, welcome to the Nick Bahe YouTube page. You know what you need to do. You need to subscribe, you need to ring the bell, you need to like the page, you need to leave a comment. I appreciate you. Here we go. Bo's got his tea. I got my bubbly. We're ready to go. Shouts out to Go Currency for making it all possible. I want to thank Go Currency. All this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for them. Is that how it goes? How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
You doing okay?
Yeah. I had to get my flu shot yesterday. So for work, I do flu shot and I think it's Tdap and TB. So I got the triple dose. And I mean, it's like,
are you kind of kicking in your ass here?
It started kicking in this afternoon.
Okay.
Like,
so can you give me, are you like,
I'll give you the best hour
that I got. Can you give me 45?
I got the best hour that I got in me.
And then I'll try to close. Then we'll go to the bull. We'll bring in Mariano Rivera, me, apparently.
Yeah, then you're going to have to wheel me out of here. But
I'll try and close it out. I'll try and close it out.
Mac has to do it. He'll do it.
Yes, that's right. I got a bunch of stuff that I'm excited to talk about today. The one thing I wanted to, did you do the Powerball thing? Did you buy a Powerball ticket? You seem like, have you ever bought a Powerball ticket in your life?
Well, I know I have, but the one I missed was Andy Sand, my roommate at the time.
Yes.
We were living out on West O. This is in college. He called me and said, hey, Powerball's up at 500 million as I'm driving down West O past a certain gas station. The next day,
shut up.
That gas station's where all these people that worked at the meat packing plant won on a random ticket. So I was driving by it at the time. So it's one of those that, I mean, dude.
Oh my God.
I wasn't probably going to get it, but the fact that it was,
but you were that close.
I was on the street, driving by where the ticket was.
I've never heard that story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't think I bought one since.
Well, Powerball is always interesting to me with how skewed we get with money when it comes to buying a Powerball ticket. If it's like 10 million, you're like, it's not enough.
No, not.
10 million. You really expect me to go out of my way and get out of my car and for a chance at $10 million?
Maybe that's smart though. It needs to be so much. Like if it's $1 trillion, I'm buying it every time because if you get the trillion, the $1, right? The 100 times you bet the $1, it's like, who cares, right?
But it's just interesting how once it gets to a certain crazy amount, then people are like, okay, now $1 billion.
Yeah.
Oh, it's $1 billion. Like, no, it's worth my time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
funny to me how that works. Other thing I wanted to ask you about, this is it's basketball season. I was in Lawrence, Kansas, did their exhibition game, did Creighton's opener. I got Creighton. We're taping this on a Wednesday night. I got Creighton's second game against North Dakota tomorrow night. It's officially the season where I'm napping in my car in various parking lots. Wow. What can and can't you do in your car? Like, I know how you get there. Yeah, we all know what you can't do, right?
What was it in the Hall Pass where he gets caught and he's like, what are you, Knight Rider? He's like, brings back memories of being in high school.
Yes. But there's a part of me that even feels like I napped in a Panera parking lot in Lawrence and then a Starbucks parking lot in Omaha. I tried to at least. There's a part of me that feels like I'm breaking the law. Am I could a cop walk up and be like, hey, what are you doing? Moving along here. What? Can I not park and sleep in my car for a short period of time? You can park and sleep
at a gas station. I mean,
right?
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay, I don't know what about there. There has been times, now I always do this, I get in my back seat. I've done this before where I get in my back seat. No, not to nap. I get in my back seat if I got to change, if I'm not in my suit, I've changed into a suit in my back car, that back seat of my rental car on the road. People think man, TV, man, it must be so glamorous. It's meanwhile, I'm at parking lots, napping and changing in my back. When does it get to be indecent exposure? Coming this summer.
If you're in it, if you're in your car,
I'm not getting buck nasty naked.
I think it's kind of like if you're in your car, you're in your house a little bit. Look,
it becomes, this is my house.
What goes on below the window is my business in my car. If it's your house and they're peeping on you, that's a Tom
That's what it feels like to me a little bit.
But you can be naked in your house walking around.
Right. I don't get naked in my car, but I'll be in my boxers for a second before I get
Nick, I think
the pants on.
In my opinion, well within the lines of what goes on below the window is your business.
Okay. I just want to know that what I can and cannot do in my car.
I'm going to vote can for pants off under the window line.
It's funny.
The window line's a big deal, though.
The window line, anything below the window line, like
if you're trying to maneuver around, and if I'm more up in the window, then it's a whole nother
above the window. Like that's ridiculous.
Above the rim is not just a movie Tupac is in. It's the line you keep your butt below.
You cannot do it above the rim. But okay, you bring up voting. I got a little voting thing for us. It's going to be for coaching candidates. Like we're going to reset. I wrote down 10 candidates, 9, and then I left room for a write-in. We're going to go through all of them, and if they're on the ballot for Nebraska football head coach, because it's everybody voted in the spirit of voting. Would you vote for them? So we'll get into that. And then I got some other things that with Whipple, some of his quotes, Mickey Joseph, some of his quotes. Very interesting stuff to get into, and I want to pick your brain as well. But do we need to? We haven't done a song of the week in a while.
Yeah, we better do.
We better do it here
for a week, I think, because
we did. Well, we did no video for one of the mid-week pods here. So, okay, you're in charge of the song of the week. It's gonna be something. Give me something, man. Get me rolling with something. Are you just gonna hit me with it? Or are you gonna give me any intro? What we got here? I guess I should probably bring this up too.
The intro is I want to test your knowledge. So this is a song. It's not an obvious one probably, but if you know your movies, this is a song from a scene in a movie. It's a famous scene.
Oh God! See, this is gonna give you not the wood.
Yeah, I know.
If it ain't the wood, boys in the hood.
I'm not
The Mask.
I'm not playing to your strengths right now with this, but I will say this. I'll give you hints as we get going. Okay,
I'm gonna do bad at this.
For the listeners, let's see who can get it the fastest when you're listening to it. But
okay, I got it up. So good. Is that gonna be loud enough? Okay, here we go.
Here we go. I think we need to go.
Oh God. Oh man. Okay.
Last night I got loaded on a bottle of gin.
Okay, now this is where the hints start coming. There is something in this room that should give this away.
On a bottle of gin.
It is a sports movie. I repeat, it is a sports movie. It's in a sports movie, a scene from a sports movie.
Oh God! There's something on the wall in this room. Is it our boy Costner?
It is Bull Durham. Los Lobos. I got loaded last night. So
yes.
Okay, do you know the scene?
Yes. Well, maybe I don't know the scene.
It's the rain out. Remember when they have to? He's trying to get the team out of a slump.
Yeah.
And they do they get the sprinklers, and he goes, I promise, I guarantee I'll get us a rain out. So he does the sprinkler, and then they run around the bases, and it kind of sparks their camaraderie.
Yes, right.
So I picked that, but I had another reason for picking that.
Okay.
So I just read Ron Shelton just wrote a book. I think we're good.
Okay.
So Ron Shelton just wrote a book.
Okay. Okay. Look at you. You brought props.
I did my homework.
Okay.
So it's called The Church of Baseball. So it's basically about the making of that movie. And this is probably my favorite. This is probably my favorite all-time baseball movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's
saying something because
over the years, this one has just kept climbing.
Right.
And so I found myself the last handful of years, every summer I watched this a few times.
Right.
And then when this came out this summer, I read it. And I mean, it's just awesome. It's all about
any major illuminating anecdote from the book that.
Well, so Ron Shelton played minor league baseball, so that's partly why it's so good.
Right.
But it's about the script. He goes through this is a script he had it forever.
Right.
And if you into how films are made, and that it's fun in that sense. But there's just a ton of those little tidbits if you're fans of the movie that you pick up. There's a couple things I thought you'd really like though, just in terms of where the movie industry is now compared to where it was. So they released it in 1989, right? And he said they released it in June. This was the summer lineup they were competing against. Okay. Red Heat with Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Great Outdoors with John Candy, Big, Die Hard, Coming to America, Cocktail, Midnight Run, Rambo 3, Poltergeist, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Wow.
That was the state of movies in the summer of 1989.
Wow. Those are like all like home run.
That's what I'm
run.
saying. So like he kind of like he goes through like how hard it is to get a movie made.
Yeah.
And they go through test screenings, and like the test screenings are a huge deal. I didn't understand how big of a deal they are, but the audiences in these test screenings, they rate each scene, and they didn't necessarily test well. And if you don't test well, they either shred your film up and do something different with it, reshoot it, or they just throw it in the can. And so they barely made it. But this scene,
Bull Durham barely made it.
Barely made it.
Okay.
This scene is the meeting of the mound.
Yes.
It's like probably the most famous scene from the movie. Every studio exec wanted it cut. They wanted it cut the whole time. And so like Shelton's like, no, you gotta understand, like the baseball, like people will love this. This is the stuff people love. And they wanted to cut this scene over and over. And so stuff like that in this book that was really
it makes you think like how many great scenes have we been robbed of over the years potentially because it got cut because some test said it. No, that scene's got to go. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he was telling about his one of his favorite scenes was with Sarandon and Cosner, and he says he calls it this title in this chapter head is "Kill Your Darlings." Sometimes you have to do that. Things that like you don't think will work, and then the things that you're like you absolutely believe to your heart will actually won't. So it's like that would
be hard if you feel really good as a filmmaker about a certain scene, and then everybody's like, no. Well, one thing you and I were talking about, like it was really when the 30 for 30 stuff started to take off, the future of sports movies in general. Like anymore,
that's a good point. Yeah.
Anymore, it seems like it's either got to be some original made up story, then you could make it.
Yeah.
But often like remaking something,
it's getting harder.
It's getting like Miracle. Now you would just make a documentary about it, And so I don't know, because did you watch Sandler? I can't remember. Sandler had that NBA movie.
I didn't like it at all.
You didn't enjoy it?
No. I thought
Why am I blanking what that was called?
It was called Hustle, maybe?
Hustle, that's right.
I watched it and was just kind of like, eh.
It was okay.
It was okay.
Ben Affleck had it's called The Way Back, I think. Ben Affleck was like a star basketball player, alcoholic, came back to coach the high school team, all that stuff. Like kind of one of those movies, like I've seen this movie a million times.
I did see that one actually. And it was okay.
It wasn't bad. Nothing. I mean, I'm trying to think of the last good sports movie.
I know it. It's because I just watched it. King Richard, Will Smith as Venus.
Really,
my wife was like at times crying. Like
I watched it on a flight and was like,
that's the best sports movie that's been out in a long time. It's just the problem is Will Smith.
And then he slapped a mother trucker, and then it was just like, yes, you're right. That's
a good movie.
But in some ways, technically that's a sports movie. But that's more of like a
father and daughter movie.
And like a biography.
But that's what I think is great. That's what I mean, because like you don't have to be like sports only, right? Like I think it's sports has to run through the movie,
right?
That's all that really matters for a great sports movie. Because like Bull Durham, they talk about this like they never had the big game,
right?
The story was the love triangle between Nuke LaLoosh, Susan Sarandon, and Cosner's character Crash Davis,
right?
And so that's the story, and it ends when Nuke gets the call to go, called up the big leagues,
right?
You never find out what happens.
Yeah,
the season didn't matter. It was the love triangle that mattered. But the baseball is so authentic, and the minor league feels so authentic.
But you have to have. You're right. Like you could have a sports movie where like a sport is like a part of like the through line, but it's not necessarily the main thing of what it is. Even like, would you characterize Jerry Maguire as a sports movie?
If it barely gets into a sports movie, I would call it like barely a sports movie. Maybe. Well, it's so good though. It's so good.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, you and I were like, everybody bashed this movie. Speaking of Costner, I kind of enjoyed Draft Day.
I loved it.
I enjoyed Draft Day. So I would say maybe that would be, because when I was thinking like King Richard obviously was, very recent. Maybe the next best one is Draft Day.
Draft Day was 2014.
God, it was that long ago.
That's how long it was. So funny you say that. Chris Lyon and me had lunch the other day, and he was brought up Draft Day, and he rewatched. He says it's he loves it too. But the greatest thing he said was it was like how bad they missed in some areas. Like he said, Like, you remember, like, they were going, the one quarterback was kind of, they were like, they realizing he was kind of a dud.
Yeah.
And they're like, but the guy they had is like, the trainer was like, guess how much he was squatting last year? Guess how much he squats this year? And he goes, guess how much he benches? And like the meeting line are like dying over this because like quarterbacks, it doesn't matter how much. That's a non-football person being like, you know what we should have to do? The quarterback works out really hard this offseason and he gets really strong. It's like, wrong position, wrong.
It's amazing that enough people, you don't necessarily have to be like a hardcore football person to know, like, wait a minute. Does that really apply to a quarterback? It's amazing that enough people let that, like, look, this is good. We're going with the quarterback is where, I forgot about that. That's great.
Think about what Kevin Costner did. Think how, like, he's supposed to be the greatest GM ever. He traded away 3 first-round picks for the guy that would have been sitting there at like 15.
Right. Right. You know, it ends up being like a thing where you think he totally, it's positioned like, boy, did he was playing chess and just crushed everybody. It's like,
no, at the last minute, he wavered from his philosophy and almost made the biggest mistake you could ever.
Right.
You know, it's like, so it's funny when you like talk that out. Like,
I do think though, it's a great, the whole anecdote of why you didn't anybody go to Bo Callahan's birthday, you know,
it is pretty good.
Like, that's a pretty, like, those are the kinds of things that you really put yourself in the position of a general manager, or if you're like just any sort of person that's making a draft selection, like little things like that could be like, I
think those are the hardest type of things to judge, though. It's like when it's a lot of hearsay and you don't actually know somebody, but they can get in front of you and say all the right things. Like, you got to see to somebody's soul in a meeting or two. That's really tough.
Yeah, I do wonder how those conversations go on draft day, where, you know, he gets the guy and he's like, you know, and there's like the quick conversations, hang up. Even you see it in Moneyball. Brad Pitt calls, you know, he has the whole line, when you get the answer you want, like, hang up. And the whole, like, I wonder how snarky those conversations really get.
Well, I mean, what was Cosner's line? And he goes, "You pancake eating."
Yeah, you pancake eating mother. Yeah, right.
I mean, it's great. I mean, but Cosner makes it all work. He kind of just has that. Probably the greatest sports movie actor ever by a mile.
Who else would be like
Bull Durham, Field of Dreams,
Sandler
incorporates a lot of sports.
I mean, Happy Gilmore, Waterboy,
yeah. But Costner did For the Love of the Game and Draft Day. That's 4.
That's a lot.
Really good ones.
Oh, that's good.
Tin Cup.
Cosner's
that's right. The king. Let's just say it. Cosner's
He's the king.
Yeah,
he is the king. That was good. I enjoyed that conversation. Speaking of coaches and decision making, real quick, let me see my phone real quick because I want to play something. I want to read something to you and I want to play something for you. So you can put the headphones on.
I love when we go music heavy.
Well, this isn't music. This is going to be this is a Mickey quote. But a couple of things I want to get into first before we get into the quarterback discussion. So one thing that you and I stumbled upon at the end of our last pod. Oh God, we're playing music still. This is great. Okay. I stopped it, by the way. The old quote over the summer, Pat Narduzzi was on a podcast in the summer. He's the Pitt coach, and obviously Whipple was his offensive coordinator. And Narduzzi had a quote that I remember at the time thinking, like, man, this seems like sour grapes. He's pissed. He lost his offensive coordinator, yada, yada, yada. Now that you read that quote and then having watched Whipple call plays for 9 games and you reread this quote, and then I'm going to play a Mickey soundbite at Mickey's press conference, and then we're going to kind of talk about it. But so Pat Narduzzi's quote in the summer about Whipple was, quote, "Our old offensive coordinator had no desire to run the ball. Everybody knew it. He was stubborn. Wake Forest was 118th in run defense, and we threw the ball every down. When we ran it for 10 yards, but that wasn't good enough." You now hear that quote lands a little different now.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about just the reluctancy to not just stick with the run. Then Mickey Joseph at his press conference in the middle of the week, listen to what he talked about with Big Ten football So listen to this. This is Mickey Joseph.
You got to be happy with them. And so we got to say, hey, we got a 3-yard run. Let's pad it back up and go back at it again, and maybe we get another 3-yard run. Now it's 3rd and 4. It's manageable.
We pad it up. Got to be happy with a 3-yard run. We pad it up. We go back to it again. I mean, that's something we've talked about a lot with Whip.
The last 4 weeks, Nick, we've been beating that to death probably. And to hear Mickey say that tells you that like that message now is in his head and the other coaches are thinking it too.
Right.
Like, we knew Whip liked to throw it, but man, it's like when you see somebody that you can feel doesn't really want to run the ball when you kind of need to, it puts you at a bit of a crossroads.
Right. And so, yeah, it's, I don't know if we even talked about just being happy with 3 yards.
Yeah.
And so committing to the run, it takes patience on a variety of levels, and it'll just now be interesting depending on who starts at quarterback, what this offensive approach looks like really for the rest of the season now, because you read that quote, you listen to Mickey, you watch, Mark Whipple call plays. It does kind of feel like there needs to be more of a desire to legitimately establish the run. And, maybe Mickey will force him to, but I don't know what that really even looks like.
This is what's really hard because we were talking about this a little bit of the dynamic. Mark Whipple was in a way Mickey's boss up until game 4. And then Mickey became the head coach and Mickey was turning Whipple loose. Whipple, do your thing. And it wasn't until I think these last 2 or 3 games where, Oklahoma was the first game that I think they realized we didn't get any favors from our offense that game in terms of holding on the ball, big picture game plan. I think it's been the last 3 games now where it's now forcing Mickey's hand almost to, are you going to let Whip do what he does and tell him, hey man, it'd be good to run the ball? Or are you going to step in and say, Whip, this is what I want, and you're going to do it? Because that's a whole different thing.
Yes.
And that's hard to do, especially when the dynamic has changed like that. Whipple's an older guy that's been used to being in charge of his thing. This is your unit. Do what you do. And there's nobody else that can do it, Nick. This is Whip's offense. So it's hard. Here's where it's hard to tell Whip what to do because it's his offense. Nobody else can run it. It's not the backup coordinator can do it if Whip doesn't want to do it. It's it's Whip's show right now, kind of.
Well, and the thing that, or it's not like the head coach, there's some sort of scenario where same scenario, Frost needed to take over calling plays, he could do that, But the reason, one of the reasons that this should be, it's challenging because it's Whipple's offense, and it's challenging because it's not what necessarily he wants to do. But it's not only it feels like it because of the injury to Casey Thompson that this should be even more of a no-brainer for him to do it. I get it when Casey Thompson's out there and you got Trey Palmer to continue to want to kind of take shots down the field and all those kinds of things. But so it's just, not only do you probably need to do it because of the opponents and your defense and all those sorts of things, but you need to do it because of now your quarterback situation too. So it seems I
think for me, it was, I try really hard not to be overly critical of certain play, but man, I just especially when Thompson's out and you bring in Chubb, you got to help the team out. You got to think bigger than your little offense. You got to think about the entirety of the game. And I think that's where there is a bit of a blind spot in my opinion.
That's what I think. And okay, so with the I want to get into a quarterback discussion here because it's Smothers and Purdy seem like there's been kind of battling once again. Casey Thompson, his status is still uncertain. It's hard to read. I also think you try to read too much into what they say. A part of the gamesmanship is to not, maybe Casey's practicing all week and they're going to try to say I don't know about Casey. You want to make Michigan have to prepare to not know exactly who they're preparing for.
I think Mickey said in the paper, I read today's paper, which was Tuesday's practice. If he doesn't go Wednesday, I'm not playing him.
Right.
So that means that I don't know if he practiced today, but we'll see.
So Mickey did bring up, and I wanted to ask you about this. 2 things. he brought up how Mickey has talked to Logan about wanting Logan Smothers to be a better practice player and all those sorts of things. Two things within that. The first one, because the second one I want to really expand on. Don't you think there gets to a point where, like, I always do think practice has to matter for everybody, but don't you think there gets to a point where the game results have to matter as well? Like, and I hate turning on the mic and really like, I don't mean to like crush Chubba Purdy, but I think you've seen a big enough sample size of him at the quarterback spot that I even think I just can't imagine trotting Chubba back out there as a starter brings about a bunch of confidence for the team either.
The biggest point is that, like, confidence from him, right?
Yeah.
He has shown, other than maybe a couple scrambles he had in the first drive of last game, I mean, every time he's come in, something bad has happened.
Right.
And his decision-making has been bad, and he hasn't thrown the ball good, that's what they say he is. He's the better thrower. So, like, he hasn't thrown it well. So, to me, he hasn't checked any boxes. And more than that, when I hear Mickey talk about him, Chubba's got to settle down.
We got to talk to Chubba after every play. We got to calm him down.
Got to calm him down. He's erect.
He's not seeing it.
He's not seeing it. Like,
all these things are like, but it's weird.
That's what my problem is. If you say that about somebody, the rest of the team knows it. They know it for sure.
Right. And the thing that's weird is, like, if you're saying that it's just weird that you're saying that about Chubba, yet you're willing to continually, like, see past all that and want to give him more chances. But for some reason, Logan doesn't fall into that category. I've always said, for some reason, for coaches, certain players fall into a folder of reasons why it can work, and other players fall into a folder of reasons it can't work. And for whatever reasons, Logan has fallen into, like, well, he can't do this, he can't do that, he can't do that, he can't do that. And Chubba, they only see, like, well, he can maybe do this, he can maybe do that.
I think it's a little bit of the Joe Gans problem, and I think a lot of it's physical. Like, I think physical stature for coaches is a big deal. And Joe was kind of a smaller, unimpressive human, like, physical.
Yes, right. You stand by Joe,
and Joe, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but it's true.
It's true.
Joe's a buddy, so he.
Oh yeah, like, we love Joe,
like, but Joe was really a good player, and I know he probably. I think he earned the job going into 2007. I think he was the better quarterback, but the coaches, Bill Callahan had in his head,
right, Sam
Keller's the guy. Because he looked the part. He talked the part. He had a presence.
Yes.
He did all those things right. So I think in their head, it was already going to be Sam Keller. And Joe outplayed him, but Joe just didn't have that. I mean, if Joe would have been like 6'5" with a cannon, we're not even talking, Nick. Joe Gans is the starting quarterback, but he's 6 foot and he's, not 190 pounds, quick, but not fast, but he was a crafty, good football player.
Right.
And it wasn't until he got his chance in a game that you're like, oh, every game Joe Gans plays, we score 50 points.
Right.
And Sam Keller was throwing checkdowns all season to Marlon Luck. Remember?
Yes, Marlon Luck set the single season record.
He dropped back and throw a check down. Like,
right.
It was amazing to see the difference when you got Gans in the game. Just his command for the offense, his ability to make plays and think on his feet. That's a thing. You can't find that out sometimes in practice.
Well, okay. I want to expand on that, but I'm trying to get the size. So Smothers is listed as 6'2", 190, and Chubba's listed at 6'2", 210. But Chubba looks taller and almost more than
Smothers
20 pounds.
Is probably 6'1", 175 pounds, soaking wet. You know, like,
he does not look like he's
slender.
So, okay, you bring up that practice thing, because that was the next thing that I wanted to get into. Which, it's weird you say that. Like, everybody uses this cliche, and I've even been guilty of saying this. Like, well, where some guys are just gamers. They don't look good in practice, but you throw them in a game and they're really good. Like, is that really true? Like, help me out. I want to really go through your brain of, I can't really remember a teammate that was bad in practice, like so bad that you wouldn't start them, yet they were like great players.
I think it is I don't think you can be bad in practice. I think the difference is
because I guess I'm trying to figure out what
like
we mean by like, he's just a gamer.
So
it's
a
like,
quarterback,
what do we mean by that?
What you can't find out about a quarterback is they don't get hit.
Yes.
They don't actually get hit or like if you tackled full speed every play in practice, you'd know who all your players are.
Yeah.
But what happens is when you play the sort of like we have to practice safe, there's just a lot of positions where guys know how to do the things right in practice, but it's different when it's like it's on, man. It's loose. It's loose. So you got to do things past like I caught it and then they tagged me off and I run the ball out 40 yards because that's what we do in our drills. And it's like, no, you got to catch and hold on to it when they're coming at you as a receiver. Or, the quarterback, you got to feel the pressure and step up and avoid the sack. Like that's so much different if you know they can hit you versus they can't hit you.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, some guys are practice players. Like they're really good in practice, and then the game comes and it just feels,
so maybe that's the better way to put it. I would say of this situation, I think it's the opposite. I think I've seen more guys that are good practice players that aren't good in the game rather than the opposite. But I hear more about the opposite. I guess maybe that's the better way to put it.
I think what happens is the better practice player gets put over the gamer, basically.
Yes.
But the gamer, I don't think is they don't suck in practice.
Right.
They're good enough. They just like the things they do well, I think come out when it's like when the bullets are flying, they're the ones that like they're more comfortable in it.
Right. Because some guys are really good at drills, really good at situational things, all those kinds of things. And then there are some guys that just suck at drills and they need a real game with real competition to really get them going. Like, but I've heard people have started throwing that there like, maybe Smothers is just a game. Some guys, man, they just need the game. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe the way you've kind of, as we've talked this out, is the better way to put it. Like, maybe it's what we're really getting at is some people are better in a practice than they are.
Some people are better when the stakes aren't higher.
Right.
And when there is a certain structure you can kind of hide behind.
Right.
Or when it's dude, it's just different when, like I say, when the bullets are flying.
It's totally
That's
different.
like the old days when the Marines, like they'd fire live rounds because you find out if they know it's blanks or something.
Yeah, you're a little more
differently than if it's live rounds.
Yes.
It scares
because I wonder with Chubba,
crap out of you.
I wonder with Chubba if he sits in the pocket, hangs in there more, just using Mickey's line, like he's not seeing it. Well, one way you don't see it is if all of a sudden you're like, holy shit,
I'm
going to get hit.
We're in practice. You're standing there, go through your progression. Do you know why?
Not going to get hit.
I'm wearing a green jersey.
And the starter's already out. If anybody touches Chubba, you're getting fucking reamed. So because if you notice a lot of his pass, he just bails.
Yeah.
And he rarely steps up and hangs there.
Yeah. I mean, Casey's done a pretty good job of stepping up, hanging.
Zach Taylor was like the best at that.
Zach, that was in the day when you could tee off on quarterbacks, and Zach would step into throws
and get
a shot to the chin.
Yeah.
And that was the old kind of, I don't know what it was like the badge of honor, we'll call it, for quarterbacks from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It was like, will you step up in the pocket, make the throw, knowing you're going to get lit up, and still deliver through the ball, take the shot? That was like the big time, big nut quarterbacks. That's what they did.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, because I've heard a lot of people throw this out there because people are trying to get inside of what the heck is going on at practice between Logan Smothers and Chubba Purdy. And I'm trying to I wanted to have this conversation to try to, at least based on our experiences in athletics, of what that could mean. And so I think we've explained it. I think the biggest thing people understand is, like, I really don't think it's a product of I've never seen a guy just be terrible in practice, or like, I can remember certain guys who loafed it a bit in practice.
Yeah.
Like there definitely are guys that it's hard for them to get rolling.
Yeah.
Unless it's all of a sudden the lights are on.
But usually those guys, you kind of know what they are too.
That's what I'm saying.
I think in football, it's more, I think, probably skill position people, you get a little bit more feel for that. Like you get a feel for, like, if it's a quarterback, even running back a little bit, because it's like you're not You know,
Right.
you got to break tackles. You got to make
Yes.
some. Like,
I don't know how
think
you could know.
It's more skill position. I think line. It's like, dude, it's either you're either doing it in
got it or
practice.
you don't.
Yeah, I think the linebackers to say that stuff you kind of know. I think it's probably more quarterbacks, running backs, receivers.
Yeah.
The gamer stuff comes out a little bit more.
I'm just curious. I'd love to know because they have it's. I will say Mickey, if anything, is like there are times he'll give you nothing and give you like the cliche no answer, and there's times he'll give you quite a bit.
I think he's giving too much right now.
I think he's actually been almost too like some of the stuff he's talked about with Smothers and with Chuba. I'm like, ooh.
Well, don't tell anybody where Casey's at. Like, don't be like, yeah, Casey, I'm not gonna play him if he's on practice tomorrow. Like, I wouldn't say that.
No.
I would say there's a good chance he's gonna. Like, I'd say
I wouldn't even talk about.
Yeah,
I would just be like, I mean,
or we don't talk about injuries.
We don't talk about injuries. We'll see. You know, or just you can just say he's going through the week of preparation, and we'll see what happens on Saturday. Next question.
Yeah, because you want to like
you want Harbaugh to go.
Who am I playing against?
Okay, I mean, because honestly, if you're Harbaugh and it's Casey Thompson, you got a whole different set of issues,
two game plans, and make them do the work.
Right.
But
even I felt like Mickey's been like really honest with the stuff the pseudo kind of negative stuff he said about. He's been in all reality. He's been pretty negative about Chuba and Logan. You know, the stuff we talked about, like, I got to tell Logan to call or Chuba to calm down after every play. You got to talk to him. You got to like
Smothers isn't really a thrower.
Smothers isn't a thrower. Smothers has got to practice better. I've talked about him a bit. Like some of the stuff is like, geez, like.
Yeah, I think it must be in practice. Purdy is head and shoulders a better thrower, but I think just with Smothers has a better feel for just running the ball, kind of being crafty right now. And I think the hard part is like in a game where you can't just line up and throw how you want to throw because we can't pass block well enough and they're going to light us up and our quarterbacks aren't comfortable enough. So it's like, it's almost, I think it just becomes Smothers is a safer option. Almost.
That's what I think. It's just based on what we've seen. I don't know how. Really, both guys got about the same amount of sample size as if you want to take Smothers' Iowa start last year. Got about the same amount of and it's
Smothers has been good.
I don't know how, again, without seeing practice, but even not having to see practice, based on the 5 quarters of starting quarterbacking I've seen, I don't know how you could choose Chuba over Smothers at this point. But
I think it comes back to it's Whip's guy and it's Whip's offense. And Whip wants he wants to do what he wants to do. And I think a lot of those are those deep outs and the like. Chuba can throw the ball in a way that I think Smothers struggles a little bit, like maybe on those deep outs and things like that. I think Smothers can throw. He can throw down the seam. He can throw some basic things, but I think if you're asked to make hard throws, it's a bit of a challenge for him. So
I guess
that's probably where Whip's coming from. But like I said, Chuba's probably better from Whip's offense. It's his guy handpicked. But
you brought up too, like the dudes that kind of like, there are some guys that just don't work hard in practice, but like I know on Saturday that dude will be ready to rock. Like,
you wish they would practice.
You wish they would, but like
if you need him, you need him.
Like when shit gets real, he's gonna be in the fight, and so it's just I've heard a lot of people throwing out these cliches and stuff with practice, and I wanted to have a conversation about that because I'm like, I don't really know what that even means. Okay, get out our ballots because we're going to talk about coaches here in a second. Before we do that, I got to tell you about Go Currency. Does your business need easy, competitive financing for trucks or equipment? Currency is here to help. Currency specializes in finding the best available rates and terms for construction equipment, farm machinery, trucks, and trailers. In fact, customers can get loans for up to $500,000 with little or no money down and terms for up to 72 months. Currency can also help if you're getting serious about buying a new or used motorhome, fifth wheel, or utility vehicle. Just fill in an application and the Currency Finance team will get to work finding a lender with the most competitive options. It's quick, secure, and free to use. Currency is equipment financing made simple. Visit gocurrency.com for details. Offer may vary. Arranged by Express Tech Financing, LLC, DBA, currency pursuant, CFL, license 60DBO-54873. All right, ballots are out. I was thinking about it as, you go through it, you're filling out your ballot voting, and I kind of this is how much I think about sports. I'm like, well, this is gonna, what if they were all like Husker coaches? Like, would they get your vote or not? And I wanted to reset things because remember, right when the firing happened, we had a long pod where we went through like 20 candidates.
Yeah.
Well, as 2 months have elapsed now, it seems like the candidates have gotten whittled down. So I wrote down 9 candidates and I wrote space for a write-in. Okay. We're going to go through these 9 candidates, and right now they're on the ballot. Would you vote yes for them to be the Nebraska? It's kind of hard.
It's hard. Okay.
First on the ballot, Lance Leipold. Just to reset, assistant coach, Nebraska, 2000 to 2003. He won 6 Division III national titles at Wisconsin Whitewater. He had 6 years at Buffalo. He was winning seasons in the last 4, including a 10-win season in 2018. He has Kansas at 6-3 this season. They are going to go to a bowl game. Kansas has been a train wreck. He's just in year 2 in Lawrence, Kansas. Lance Leipold is on your ballot.
Okay, I need some clarity here.
Okay.
I need some clarity. When you put somebody on a ballot, how many votes do I get?
The way I'm kind of approaching this is it's not like if a vote.
It's an initiative on the ballot, like the Lance Leipold initiative.
Yes,
vote yes or no.
I would vote yes. It's not to say, this isn't to say that because you voted for Lance Leipold, you now cannot vote for Dave Aranda.
Or I'm not putting somebody over Mickey Joseph,
yes.
Right? This is just like
he's on the ballot. Okay. Would you go no or yes?
Okay.
Lance Leipold, he's on the Ruud ballot to be the next head coach of Nebraska football. You want me to fire first?
Go first.
Because I would vote yes. I would vote yes.
My gut was saying yes because I know Lance, and I think he is a good guy and is a really good football coach. I guess this is hard because it's like if you vote yes for everybody, so I'm
I mean that's where it's going to be interesting. Like you have to really think about because
I think
put yourself in a position what
do these how many guys are in the it's like. Well, there's 10 guys that would be does that mean we're not being critical enough? But let's just keep going. I'm maybe.
Well, maybe as we go, you'll start to filter these things out.
Okay.
But I would vote yes. I mean, obviously we know about I wish there was a little bit more of a sample size for him at this level. It's only been 2 years at Kansas. I think the jury's out a little bit on him as a recruiter, potentially. Yeah. But again, I think maybe what Nebraska needs is a grinder and a builder, and I think he's one of those guys.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Okay. Next on the ballot, Matt Campbell.
I think he's had a tough couple of weeks, but you'd asked us before the season, at the beginning of the season, once Frost was fired. I think, I've talked to people that don't live in Nebraska, and they all said you'd be lucky to get Matt Campbell. This was weeks ago.
Right.
And I'd still probably say yeah to him. Are you a no
For
now?
some reason, I am going against. I'm hypocritical in that. I think one of the things I've talked about a ton is not overreacting to the good or to the bad in the moment. Like if you think a guy's good enough, just because he lost, in Matt Campbell's case, a couple of close games, you don't want to write him off. But there gets to a point there. He's 4-5 this year. It's like, man, if he's sitting there and he just won 4 games or he just won 5 games. Not that you're trying to win the press conference. I just wonder what kind of shot in the arm does that give? I want to hire that just is woohoo.
See, this is where this gets really tough because I'm trying not to do that, but the guy you hire, it's hard to hire somebody that's coming off a losing season. I mean,
it's just hard.
You almost can't.
I know.
So this is where I'm torn on him because I'm trying not to be caught up in the moment.
Me neither.
But man, it's
I just went with my gut. Now, maybe talk to me tomorrow. I might change my vote. But again, 5 years. Let me reset for him. 5 years at Toledo. He won 9 games 3 different times. He's in year 7 at Iowa State. He's gone to a bowl 5 straight years. He finished in the top 10 in 2020, but 4-5 this year. I do love that his expertise is in the offensive line. That's where he spent most of his coaching time, which would be something that would be good for
I think
Nebraska.
That'd be a big help.
But I don't know. That's where it's hard because if you are making if you're Trev, you can't make decisions on what's going to make boosters or fans happy. Yeah. But at the same time, there has to be excitement around the hire. I just wonder, like, Matt Campbell gets announced. If they win 5 games this year, what's that reaction like?
That's tough. I think he's got some credibility in the Midwest, but he was hot 2 years ago and he's not hot right now.
Yes.
That's always a rough moment to make your hire, I think.
So I'm going to go vote no. You're voting yes.
I'll vote yes.
Dave Aranda, 6-3 this season. Wisconsin defensive coordinator from 2013 to 2015. LSU defensive coordinator 2016, 2019. Yeah. I mean, to me, it is a resounding yes.
He's been your favorite, and you kind of rubbed off on me, so I'm going to give a yes to.
Like he's the type of guy that I would maybe. I don't even know where you go about doing this. Like I would get a sign and put it in my yard, like Aranda for head coach.
And you're not a sign guy.
And I'm not a sign guy, but I would maybe do it. I mean, I like, and the other thing I like that he has a relationship with Mickey Joseph, that they have history. I think the best chance of keeping Mickey on is Dave Aranda.
That's very true.
So we're both voting yes.
Yes.
Okay. Chris Kleiman, Kansas State.
I think he might be the best coach out there right now.
I mean,
he's winning big time at K-State.
He's getting now maybe it's just because, again, his first answer to the question was like, I ain't going anywhere. Gene Taylor, this athletic director, is my guy. He was my guy at North Dakota State. Yeah. So maybe that's just been like, well, you're not going to go. You're not even going to bother. But I mean, he's year 4. Has 2 8-win seasons. He's really kind of dominated Oklahoma.
That's the part I'm just like, dang, and they kicked our butt.
Dominated Okie State. He's produced 3 NFL quarterbacks at North Dakota State. I think he would be a good fit geographically. I think he's got an eye for talent and development. North Dakota State fits what I think Nebraska would like, that model, and he's done it at Kansas State. That guy is like, he's been on the campaign like, yes, we can run the ball, and we will run the ball. Like, I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going on. Like, there's been a lot of that with Chris Kleiman. A lot of rallies with Chris Kleiman that have been fantastic. Otherwise, he's Barack Obama. A lot of people view 3rd and 3 as a passing down. Not me.
What do you do?
I say on 3rd and short, get under the gosh darn center and run football.
Yay!
And as your head coach, on 3rd and short, or heck, even at the goal line, I'm not going to give him the shotgun.
Yay!
That's how you politic in Nebraska for a head coach.
I mean, Nick, you're selling me right now. That's pretty good.
Who here remembers the fullback position? Woo! If I'm your head coach, you better get used to seeing a whole lot of fullbacks out there. Chris Kleiman. I'm Chris Kleiman, and I approve this message. So, yeah, I mean, I would vote yes.
I vote yes on Chris Kleiman. Nick, just sold pretty hard. You sold pretty hard on Chris Kleiman.
What's sad is he's actually like, he's out of the gun and does stuff. But I mean, it's funny to like,
that's
you know how to pander to Husker fans, you know?
Kind of great.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Okay, we're voting yes. Do you want to save Mickey for last?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Oh, this one's hard too. Matt Rule. Let me reset where Matt Rule's at. Hey, Rosillo. Here's where Matt Rule is. Okay. He's just been fired 5 games into his 3rd year at Carolina. At Temple, here's his record. 2-10, 6-6, 10-4, 10-3. At Baylor, took over a tough situation. 1-11, 7-6, 11-3. But I saw a note today, and I fact-checked it. During Matt Rule's tenure at Baylor, they never beat a ranked team. How do you win 11 games and you never beat a ranked team? I checked it. It's true. Never beat a ranked team.
Matt Rule has
the negative.
Yeah.
Matt Rule never beat a ranked team at Baylor.
He hates dogs too. Fired by the Carolina Panthers. What did he do behind the scenes? Nobody knows. But Matt Rule knows.
I'm Chris Kleiman. I approve this message.
Yeah, Chris Kleiman. Vote for me, Chris Kleiman, Nebraska. Nebraska's next head coach, Chris Kleiman.
Matt Rule thinks 3rd and 1 is a shotgun passing down. Okay. But
Nebraska fans, I heard you like to run the ball. Well, Matt Rule loves to throw it 100 times a game.
Okay. For some reason, now I copped out writing this. I have undecided, which that's a lame way to do this. Why do I want to vote no? I want someone to sell me on Matt Rule.
Why. Here's the difference. Because Matt Campbell, it's different. Like, Matt Campbell's not getting fired by Iowa State. He's lost a couple of tough games. Matt Rule just got fired by the Carolina Panthers quickly. Like, they saw something in him and said, this is not working with this guy. Now, that doesn't mean he's not a good coach.
No.
And he wouldn't be a good coach here. I'm just torn by the fact that he was so quickly ousted at Carolina.
Well,
that always makes me a little nervous about, like, that doesn't mean like Nick Saban, it didn't work at
right. I'm not worried at all. Like, right. Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer didn't work in the pros. So some guys aren't pro guys. Right. And what I don't know about Rule is he just a great college coach and wasn't the right fit? Or is there something that just is kind of off on him that, like, the pros expose things faster? If you don't connect with the players, they just say, get them out.
Well, okay. I agree. The other thing for me is when you get inside the numbers here of Baylor, like, okay, he took over a disaster because of all the way things fell apart.
Yeah.
For Art Briles. But, like, Art Briles, here are the last handful of years. Art Briles starting in 2011.
They won that.
10-3, 8-5, 11-2, 11-2, 10-3. Then all hell breaks loose. So they had won 11 wins, 10 wins. He gets fired. Jim Grobe is the interim. He goes 7-6. Disaster. And then, then Rule takes over. And yeah, it was a train wreck in year one. Year two, so one win. It's the whole 1-11 to 11-3 in 3 years. It's like, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is, like,
this is going to be such a different rebuild. So that's my problem. I think with Rule is, like, what you're saying is, like, he's been a winner, but he's never had to deal with something like this. Like, people say, turn the Baylor. Like, Baylor was winning, had an incident, and then basically kept winning.
It's different. And I would say there's turbulence to work through when it is kind of like the football part of it, turbulence, which is what this Nebraska thing would be. And then there was just a whole bunch of bad things going on surrounding the program, kind of turbulence. Those are two different kinds of turbulence to kind of navigate through. And here's what's hard is what I don't want to have happen is, because you and I are supporters, we chug the Kool-Aid. What I don't want to have happen is for us to sit here on November 9th and we're voting no for Matt Rule, and then Matt Rule's hired.
He might be the most likely candidate. From what I've heard, it's seemingly like he is, like, he's up there.
And I would think he would be viewed by most people as the, like, home run.
Yeah.
And there's just something there. I'm dragging my feet a little bit on him.
I always struggle too with people that I'm not as familiar with.
Yes.
Like, I really didn't watch his teams at Baylor. I didn't watch them at all the pros. So, like, it's not a fair judgment. I'm sort of just going off of, like, I don't know him, and it's like a gut. It's like a gut reaction that I don't from not knowing him.
I agree.
And it's not fair. Like, I've got to see more Matt Campbell, right? I've kind of been, like, more aware of what Kleiman's doing, at North Dakota State. And like, I'm just more aware of that. I mean, I know Leipold. I've met Leipold.
Yes.
Those guys. I don't know him, and I didn't really follow him at all at Baylor. So it's like, it's probably not a fair judgment.
Yeah.
But, like, that's almost where I don't want to say no to him yet, because I think he's a very possible candidate.
I do too. So I want to be undecided, but I mean, you could be an undecided voter, I guess, but I guess we're at the ballot. You can't be like, can I come back tomorrow? And
I would like to abstain.
I want to recess in this court, and I'll be back tomorrow to vote on Matt Rule.
I'm going to.
Can I leave this piece of paper here and come back tomorrow to vote?
I want to recount. I want to recount.
Okay, so let's just move on from Matt Rule.
Yeah.
I don't even know what we voted for. All right. Next guy. Jeff Monken. Let me give you Russillo.
Monkey Man.
The monkey man. Special teams coach, running backs coach at Navy from 2002 to 2007. He was the special teams coach and running backs coach at Georgia Tech for 1 year. Oh, by the way, Georgia Tech went 11-3 and finished in the top 15 in the country that year. He then was the Georgia Southern head coach for 4 years. Here is win totals in those 4 years: 10 wins, 11 wins, 10 wins, 7 wins. He's now been at Army for 9 years. He's had 8 or more wins 5 different times, including a 10-win and an 11-win season. He's only 3-5 this year. It's the only thing where, the whole, like, well, how is it Matt Campbell gets ruled out, but Army's just more off the grid with that type of stuff.
Nick, they got guys that are going through basic training and then having to like
shave your head.
Yeah, it's like they're going to the mess hall and eating their 3 squares. It's just a different world.
It's a different world.
For them to win games is so impressive on any level.
That's what I think.
With the other expectations they have on them.
Little nugget. Mitch Sherman was on Sportsman Iconic, and Mitch Sherman discussed Monken. I didn't realize this, but apparently Trev Albert's son went to West Point. Oh. And Trev Albert's son helped out with the football program and kind of worked for Coach Monken. Trev paid close attention to the Army football program when he was that AD at UNO, because UNO doesn't have football, so and he's got a football team to kind of you want to have like a reason to follow a team. So because of his son's connection to Monken, he followed him, and I think he was impressed with the structure and organization and the way Monken ran the program. So now you hear that, and you're like,
so Nick, let's rewind this. We did our last recap pod, and we finished it. We were playing Welcome to the Jungle. We were banging our heads, turning off. And me and you talked about for 20 minutes, Jeff Monken and what the modern day option would look like at Nebraska. If we went all in, if we pushed all our chips in and said,
we're doing it.
We know what one thing that works here in this state, in this culture, to these fans, it's selling out option football in the black shirts defense. And this is the one guy that you would like, he could do it. And, at first we kind of scoffed at it, and then we started talking about it. And the more we talked about it, we were like, God, like, I know that sounds a little bit outrageous, like really running the old option again. Like, isn't that just dead? Isn't it dead? Isn't it hard to recruit? And you said something, you still could get the best option quarterback in the country. You could always get the best option quarterback, not the best, but a really good running back.
Yes.
And then it's like the linemen you recruit are a little different. It's harder to recruit receivers. Remember that? It's like, it's hard to get those guys, but then it's just like, it's defense, but then the game, it's a manageable style to play if you want to play smash mouth football.
It is.
It's hard, right? It's hard. And
I think the other thing that you read about is Monken's been up for a handful of Power 5 jobs over the last handful of years. And I think a lot of athletic directors have a hard time really pulling the trigger on the option. Like
it's not sexy, and it's not sexy for recruiting, because the players that are going to run that are not necessarily pro players. That option quarterback, the Tommy Frazier's, they don't really have a spot in pros, right? The linemen, they're not pass setting West Coast offense blocking like these guys. So there's a lot of this, like, get the guy to the next level. It's sexy. It's good for recruiting to run the West Coast, or,
pro style or whatever.
Or whatever, whatever the new thing is, the spread, right? Yeah. But I just think it's worth the look at. Can we win doing that in college, regardless of the optics of the rest of the world?
Well, and I wonder, the other thing too is, like, it's maybe not set in stone that would Monken come here and absolutely run the option. Maybe
not necessarily.
Like, he could maybe what Trev likes about him is, like, man, this guy knows, like, the structure, the organization, the discipline, the development, all that stuff is
all the great. Army stuff. Yeah.
All the Army stuff. That stuff is awesome. You come in, you plug that in Lincoln, and maybe you don't run the option, but you run something, like, I don't know. Maybe Monken's like, listen, man, there's 3 things I love in this world: my wife, my golden retriever, and the option. And ain't none of those strings going to change, man.
Yeah.
Not one, not nary one of
God,
them.
country, option. 3 things: God, country, option. Jeff Munkin for Nebraska coaching job. I endorse this message.
Country. That's why I
You
don't
want
know.
to get the job? That's how you get the job in Nebraska.
That's why I don't know. I don't know if his campaign slogan is God, country, option, or if it's like, hey, organization, good structure.
We'll do
figure it out.
wins.
We'll figure it out. I don't know. I'm intrigued by it because, like you said, I do think you got to be different in Nebraska. I think in Nebraska you got to be different. This would be different. It would give you, while it's a recruiting disadvantage in some ways, it does gives you a recruiting advantage where, like we've said, think about it. You could truthfully go out there and get the best option quarterback. The best. You're never going to get the best pro-style quarterback or spread quarterback. You're never going to get that guy.
Well, and the thing that what we had in Nebraska was a feeder system in the state too. In the high school, everybody ran option.
Crouch ran the option like he came out of the womb and they put him in diapers and he was just like,
I'll give Millard North this. They had all those Millard North, that pipeline. They all ran the option from all.
We ran that. Think about it.
We ran some option. Yeah.
Midget football. You and I ran the option.
Yeah. It was just, of course you ran the option.
Yeah. It was like, well, yeah. What do you mean?
We had a bunch of other runs, but it's like, but yeah, you had the option too. Like we always had the option. And that was a big part of Nebraska high school. And then when we went to the West Coast and spread, you watched everybody in high school morph away from the option.
Right. And all of a sudden you go to like a Hickman York football game and it's like they're airing it out a bunch. And it's like,
I saw East. I watched one of East games earlier this year, and I think they threw every down. In a high school game, they threw it every down.
It's nuts. I was looking at even Baylor Shireman, Creighton's the South Dakota State transfer that's a stud for Creighton this year.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had he was a great quarterback at Aurora.
Yeah.
And they aired it out. He threw 59. He threw for threw 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. And when I read that, I was an all-state quarterback. I threw for 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns.
That seemed like a lot though at the time.
Yeah. I remember Miz was like, we're airing it out this year. I was like, yeah.
It was perfect though. Iowa came and offered you. They're like,
this guy.
For instance, here's what I'm thinking. We're not going to throw out much. Just don't fumble. Let the defense win the game. You would have been actually.
Can we be honest? I would have been.
You would have been so good.
I was the perfect Iowa quarterback
because you would have been a Friends' guy. You would have just been like, I am going to do exactly what you want me to do.
I am going to be accurate. I'm not going to turn it over. I will. If I have to, maybe you got to make 1 or 2 big throws a game. I'll make them.
Yeah.
3rd and 7.
Play action, throw.
Boot. I'm hitting the tight end, moving the chains. But
for those who don't know, this is a swear to God true story. Nick Bahe, all-state quarterback.
Yes.
Friends in Iowa basically tell our coach that if Nick wants to play, he's got.
They said if he comes, they said if Nick wants to play football, if he comes to our football camp, we'll offer him a scholarship and we won't recruit
another quarterback. Yeah.
I vividly remember Coach Mazurski telling me that, and I was just like,
and you didn't consider it.
I was like, no,
it wasn't even like, man, this is a hard decision. No. It was like you didn't even consider that, which now you think.
I'm like, whoa, that's a huge deal.
One of 50 schools in the country that the whole country of quarterbacks is trying to get to. Yeah. You're like, oh no, I'm a basketball player. You wouldn't consider yourself.
Well, it was twofold. It was like I only viewed myself as a basketball player, and I was like, I'm not going to go play football. The idea of putting on another football helmet that didn't have an in on it was just like
and especially in 2002, Iowa started getting respectable 2005 and 6 when it was Chad Greenway and Abdul Hodge were there. But even, I remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, we kind of were just Iowa was like, nah.
Yeah. Well, and so, but no, I would have been the perfect.
The funniest part though is you didn't even
consider
that even an option.
I'm not even sure if I went home and my dad was like, I'm sure I relayed it to him, but I don't even know if it was that made the dinner conversation. I'm not sure.
Think
You know,
about
when your
that.
parents like, anything happened today? Anything interesting? I might have been like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Iowa offered me a scholarship in football, but no, nothing in that. Nothing really.
That's how little that was in your brain. It was
I
like,
didn't
you're like,
care about it.
but see the difference if that happened to me where it was like
You got offered to break.
like, what's the equivalent? What's the equivalent like basketball school? Like if they, I've been like, I can't believe I got a basketball scholarship.
Right,
I'd
I
be
know.
pumped.
But then you were and it makes sense where Frank Solich offers you a scholarship at Nebraska football camp. You take it on the spot, and Frank tried to be like, "Well, you want to go home and think about it?" You're like, "No, I don't. I would like to take that scholarship offer.
I will take it.
That's
and
great.
you can't take it back.
And you can take it back, right?
That's how I thought.
This is binding.
I literally thought it was like, got him. Like I can't believe they did
You
that.
pulled a fast one on at dinner. You were like, I pulled a fast one on Frank today.
You won't believe this. I got it. I can't believe they did it.
So we're talking right. I trick him into offering me a scholarship. Take it.
He didn't think I'd take it. I took it.
Okay, I don't know how we got into that with Jeff Monken, but I would vote yes. I mean, am I embarrassed that at this point I'm so intrigued by it? I know what I wanted to say. Here's the problem with this, but it seems absurd to even be thinking like this. I do feel like selling out, like if, let's say Monken is God country option.
God country option. Jeff Monken for Nebraska football.
Let's say Jeff Monken is God country option. I really think that's really funny, but I really think that you're probably conceding that you're never winning a national championship. Can you now? But my question is that even like, are we even thinking like that?
Okay,
anymore?
but here's where like
can you go?
Here's what here's
look at you living
so
in
intriguing.
1997.
Here's what's so intriguing. There's a part of me that just thinks we've been trying to play the other people's game for a long time.
Oh
now.
yeah,
and I don't know that that being so contrarian about this isn't our best chance to make a splash. Like, I just feel like trying to play the recruiting game and I just feel like
you're just never going to be Ohio State.
We're
if you're
landlocked Nebraska, small population, talent pool, not huge. In a world that has, with TV rights and things that like the attention's been spread out more social, like we still have a lot of good things going for us being Nebraska, but not like we did 20, 30 years ago where it was like, we were the
right.
name brand. Like now we're one of many name brands with a lot of constraints. Some things are benefits, but God, I just think, I don't know if I want that. I'm just very it's very intriguing.
Oh, it's intriguing.
Like the more I talk about it, the more intrigued I am.
I know. And what's hard is I think a lot of people would view, oh, you want Jeff Monken? Oh, living in the past, huh? What are you going to Blockbuster Video tonight? This guy wants Jeff Monken and run the option to go to Blockbuster.
I would go to Blockbuster.
First of all, I would love to go to Blockbuster Video.
I would
tonight.
love it.
No. And I got to tell you, I love the option. I
like Blockbuster. I go to libraries, and the option is great football to watch.
I agree, but I guess what I'm saying is a lot of people look at Nebraska, always trying to go back in time. It's like I actually think this would be like you were saying. This is actually it's 20 years away when everybody is zigging. Yeah.
It's 20 years. It's not going back in the sense of we're living in the past. It's, to me, it's like, is it an opportunity? Especially if you can. It's all about the lines. So if you tried to do that with a beastly big offensive line, like a big vicious offensive line, versus what Army's trying to do is they're trying to do it with cadets that are these dudes are 260 and they're scrappy, but they're not like what we had in the pipeline.
But just think about I think that's the intriguing thing that maybe Trev's thinking about. It's man, what if you just took the infrastructure and the development and the whole program and just put it in Lincoln and gave what you're saying, bigger, faster, stronger athletes.
That's what we did, Nick. That's what we did. And it was very successful. It was
you're telling me you don't thoroughly enjoy. Here comes the quarterback down the line. someone doesn't take the quarterback. He darts up, he gets 8 yards, and then you hit the dive that one time. And
let me just tell you something, Nick. We played Nichols State in 2006, and that week of practice was the worst.
Did they run the option?
They ran the true option, true like wishbone, like the wing bone option. And like I'm just like, we beat them and we beat them pretty good, but like. Man, like you get used to playing spread,
right?
You get used to playing pro style, and then somebody comes out and does that, and it's like a bloodbath. And you're not used to it. So like it's such an advantage to play somebody that is so not used to playing against that style. And so that's where like my intrigued thought on this is like with the pipeline, we can NIL pay these dudes to come here, new facilities, rebuild that high school sort of pipeline to get us some more walk-on, some more dudes that we just kind of get freebies on.
Right. Mandate at the government level that all high school football programs have to run the option.
You know who's our new governor?
It's Jim Pillen.
Jim Pillen will put it on the ballot. He's a former Husker.
Oh, yeah, right. He recovered the fumble in the 79 game, right?
Yeah, he'll put it on the ballot.
Yeah. Imagine that. Mandating all, like you
go into sixth grade, they hand you a football and a playbook that says option on it.
You have to run it. But okay, we went really long on Monken.
Yeah, we'll breeze through.
We're way too excited about Monken. I think he's just like the new shiny toy. Monken, we've been in class for a semester, and all of a sudden there's a new girl in class, and we're like, check it out. Check out Monken.
Well, I don't know. I don't even know if it's the new girl. I think it's like I don't even know what to say. But going to Monken's like going to a new school. It's like that's like you're going to the option, option high. You're going to option high versus.
Oh man, we're way too. People think we're drunk on Monken Kool-Aid here. It's just
Monken is the most intriguing. Like after you told me he's a legit candidate last week. I mean, that's what it was. Kind of been stuck in my brain.
Me too. I can't get.
And it's not the like it's like thinking through being contrarian in this moment in time. That is what's intriguing. It's like, gosh, do we get an edge from it? Does that give us an edge, or does it? I mean, I guess what could be worse? Losing 3 games a year? Like winning 3. That's what we do this year.
Yeah, right.
We've been winning 3 to 5 games for 6 years. Like, let's try something different.
I bet the rest of I do wonder if the rest of the conference would be like, Nebraska or Jeff's Monk, and everybody just be like, oh, God.
They'd hate us, but we'd be such a pain in the butt to play.
Okay. So
ground control, run the clock, Nick, breaking tackles.
Just salute after every first down, all 90,000 salute.
Oh man.
Oh, Jeff Monken. I like you. Okay,
we better breeze through.
Yeah. Okay. Next candidate. This guy follows in my day at my Matt Rule area. Bill O'Brien. I looked up his Wikipedia and his resume. His resume is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, was with the Patriots for 5 years, different roles, wide receiver coach, quarterback coach, was the offensive coordinator. He was the Houston Texans head coach for a handful of years. He was the head coach at Penn State. He's now calling plays at Alabama. Yep. Like if you were to blind, you just be like, this candidate was with Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. And you would be like, fuck, this guy's great. Yeah. Why am I dragging my feet with Bill O'Brien? Are you dragging your feet with Bill O'Brien?
Not as much as most people are. I think I don't know if I felt like many people were as excited about him.
He doesn't get me moved. I think I'd probably vote yes, but
I would vote yes on Bill O'Brien.
Okay, look at you. Your team, Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, I got to. I mean, I didn't get to know him.
I was wondering. He was there when you were there?
Yes.
There wasn't even like walking in the hall, like there was the closed mouth, like nod.
I mean, you talk and see each other, but if you're not in the position room, you don't.
He call you by your number. Hey, 91. Hey, 91. What's up?
Who's that?
Hey, 91. Hey.
I don't know that.
Okay, so Bill O'Brien, we're voting yes.
I'd vote yeah, probably.
All right. We had a lot of jokes on this guy, Gary Patterson.
After last week, I'm gonna vote no.
I mean, He's the special assistant to the head coach, which sounds like Dwight Schrute was like assistant to the regional manager.
Assistant regional manager.
You mean a special assistant to the defensive end? It's like, no. You mean special assistant to the head coach? Is that what you mean? Coach. Thank you very much. But he's a special assistant to the head coach at Texas.
Wouldn't have called it.
Oh, God. People need to go listen to the last 5 minutes of our last pod. But okay, so he's 62 years old. He spent the majority of his career in the Big 12, but he won a lot. 22 years at TCU. Yeah. There's a mutual parting of ways. Clearly, he didn't leave the cupboard bare. Like TCU is rolling with a lot of the guys that he recruited and developed. Now, there could be the argument made that like because they changed coaches, all of a sudden, boom, they take off. But he won 6 conference titles as a coach, 1 in the Big 12, 4 in the Mountain West, 1 in Conference USA. He's a 2-time AP Coach of the Year.
Really good coach. I always wonder though, is he at the twilight?
I think he is.
How old is he?
62. Is he watching Matlock, having prunes, and going to bed? Is he showing up at Texas Roadhouse at 4:45?
Old Country Buffet reserves a spot for him. Poor Gary Patterson. What did he ever do to us?
Why do we do this? It's an Old Country Buffet.
Matlock, prunes. Oh my God. What are we doing? Poor Gary.
That's so ridiculous. Yeah, but it feels a little bit like it feels like you're getting a guy that's at the tail end, which I don't know. I don't know what I think of that.
I think it takes a lot of energy to be the next guy here for 10 years.
I agree. So I'm dragging my feet. I'm probably going to vote no.
I'm going to reluctant no because he's proved he's a great coach. Most of these guys, they don't want to do anything else.
Right.
I would say I would vote no with the very likely scenario we need to do a recount. It might be. I'll be like, there's some hanging chads on those Gary Patterson votes. I want to recount. I don't trust the machines.
Oh my God. Okay. This is getting out of control. Okay. Before we circle back to Mickey, there's going to be a write-in area. Anybody want to write in? I mean, I wrote down Lane Kiffin. I mean, how about my guy? I proclaim my love for Pat Fitzgerald, and my man Patty Fitz has gone on to have a horrendous year. But maybe that's when you get it.
Take him.
Is it sad that I would still take that dude in a heartbeat? But they are on the struggle bus this year. The only win is against Nebraska. They're 1-8. But maybe you're getting it. I mean, you're getting him at the low. You're getting Walton. The Celtics getting Walton in 86. Everybody thinks it's all.
I don't know what it is about Fitzgerald, but like he's proven. Like some guys have proven it to you.
He's taken it to a point where it's like, okay,
I think for whatever reason, like Fitzgerald, we know what he's working with at Northwestern. It's like you got to be this good academically. It's such a harder to recruit
for sure.
That I feel like I just trust that he's a good coach.
It's hard because I'm so hypocritical. Like I won't hire Matt Campbell because he's having like a bad moment, and like Northwestern's went 3-9 last year. They're going 1-8, and I'm like, Fitz, bring it in. But Fitz is, to me, Fitz's track record is more proven than Matt Campbell's.
And here's the thing about Fitz. It's a Big Ten track record. It's like the most relatable skill set you could possibly have for Nebraska. So, like this guy in the Big Ten West he's won it a couple times with way less resources and player. I mean, that's where you go. Okay, this guy.
So I would write, if I had to write in, I'd write in Patty Fitz. Okay. Circling back to Mickey. Where are we at on Mickey? It feels so to actually not vote for Mickey feels like I might get like
I would vote for Mickey still. Because here's where I'd stand. Like there's a lot of these guys I'd take, but like if you said it's Mickey over some of these guys that I would say yes to, I would still feel good because like I still like the idea of Mickey. If we don't have the slam dunk, who I don't know who it is, sometimes that makes me feel
Jeff
like
Monken.
Mickey, well, Monken's working his way up.
Yeah, no, okay, sorry, but keep going.
I just think Mickey I don't know. It's gotten really way harder to hire Mickey now.
It definitely has. I mean, it's hard. I wouldn't feel like if it gets announced that Mickey's the guy, I feel like the program's in the hands of a guy that you know is going to work his ass off. He loves it. He knows there are a lot of things that make you feel comfortable with him being the guy.
Yeah.
But it's just so hard because you just don't, there's no way, there's just the element of the unknown for him is big. You know, like, can he truly be a CEO? Can he cast a vision and a style? Like, what does he want his style of play to be? Who's he going to hire? What offense does he want to run? Like, you don't.
Yeah.
And the one thing that's interesting is that, like, his best attribute as a coach is his ability to recruit. And I wonder if being a head coach, if actually you're like recruiting as a head coach, you're probably not on the road pounding the pavement as much.
No, but he's also, it's a bigger platform.
Right.
It's more sway because it's the head guy. I mean, I think Mickey will do awesome as the head coach recruiter. I think what's not known about Mickey is, and this is, I think Mickey's going to suffer because Scott Frost went from coordinator to head coach, like pretty quick trajectory. I think that's probably works against Mickey. Frost never had to learn the hard lessons as a head coach. That's something we talk about a lot.
Very good point.
Frost never had to learn the hard lessons at UCF.
Right.
Gets to Nebraska, goes through all of them here. And it kind of like, I mean, I think that partly like just took the wind out. It derailed him, took the wind out of his sails. He was kind of not the guy who came in here winning, right? So I think with Mickey, this is the hardest part about Mickey. You got to love the recruiting. You got to love the presence he has and the connection with players. He's never learned the hard lessons either as a head coach.
For sure.
And so the Munkins, the Klymans,
the Patty Fitzes, they've learned all the hard lessons. Gary Patterson, he's learned all the hard lessons. Right.
So we make fun of his
old country buffet. Yeah, right.
Old country buffet, but that dude's 20 years, 2-time coach of the year. Learn the lessons. Like that to me is the part where the hard part with hiring Mick is you have to go way farther out on a limb because he's never gone through the things a lot of these head coaches have to go through before they're ready to be like, now I'm ready to win.
Here's something to think about with Mickey. Is this statement I'm about to make true? Of all the candidates, reasonable candidates that are like realistic candidates, I should say. Would Mickey recruit at the highest level? Like, would the recruiting at Nebraska be the best of all the other candidates? Now, that's not to say that then the football output would be the best, because there's a lot more that goes into it than that. But would Mickey Joseph get Nebraska to recruit at the highest level with everyone else?
A part of me thinks yes. I think the other coaches would have to come in and recruits would have to see the winning, where Mickey kind of has the ability to just like get guys. But if we don't win, I think that would put the ceiling on it maybe.
Good point.
So I don't know. There's a mix there. I think probably, yes, Mickey's seemingly the best recruiter of all these.
Which that's something.
But at the same time, like, even if you're a great recruiter and your program's not winning, like it would get hard for Mickey to keep recruiting.
Yes. And again, we've seen, like, just because you're recruiting at a high level doesn't necessarily guarantee you, like, there's still a lot that has to go into it after you go bring in some talented dudes. So
yeah,
I think I would still vote yes on Mickey.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting candidate, as we've talked about for freaking 2 months here. He's an interesting candidate to kind of sink your teeth into.
I think, but the other part of Mickey is just like retaining. I think he's proven so valuable to the state of Nebraska. Like,
right,
we need to sell out to try to keep him here,
I
one way or the other.
I cannot believe that we're like, I did not think he would coach his way into being a legitimate candidate. I really didn't.
Yeah,
I really, really did not. My number one choice is still Aranda, I think, with Mickey on staff. Munkin's on he is just like, it's rising.
Munkin's a rising star in this whole conversation.
We love Kleiman. It's just like, I feel like he's like, he put us in the friend zone.
Kleiman put us in the friend zone. I feel like, it's like we we didn't know Matt Rule. He went to another school, and we heard like a bad rumor about him. So we're like, oh, she cheated on her last boyfriend or something like that. Like, it's not true though. The thing about what they're saying about Matt Rule, it's not true.
Yes.
So we need to give Matt Rule.
I
think we need to give Matt Rule a real shot.
For sure. We got to go hang with Matt Rule to get him better. We need to have a more open mind about Matt Rule. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, oh my God. Michigan game. Good Lord. Line is Michigan's favored by 31. Maybe Nebraska, say it out loud. Nebraska's a 31-point dog right now. Michigan's 9-0. They're ranked third in the college football playoff rankings. I mean, they're out for blood. They're out for style points because they got to go. They can't go muck around with Nebraska. It's not going to impress the committee. But I mean, defensively, number 1 rush defense in the country, number 2 in yards allowed, 3rd in scoring defense, 9th in sacks. Offensively, they're the 4th rushing offense in the country. Blake Corum's the 5th leading rusher in the country. Casey Thompson's status is still uncertain. I would think he's likely out unless, Miyagi's going to Ann Arbor and he's
Casey Thompson's going to play. Casey Thompson's going to play.
You throw it, Palmer.
Very good.
Yes, Casey son. No handoff. Throw deep. Palmer. Is that a terrible Miyagi? Is that even close to him?
I don't think so. I don't think that's him. I don't think so.
You audible. Pass play. No throw. Short.
Miyagi-san.
Casey-san. No handoff. Throw. Okay.
Chubba. Son?
Paint fence? You paint offense. Logan. You paint fence? You buff car. Logan. Buff. Good.
Sean Mathis. Show me. Paint fence. Show me. Wax off. That's how you get around offensive linemen.
Need to bring Miyagi. If Miyagi walked off the plane, if we get a video of like here comes Mickey Joseph and the Miyagi's behind him, I'm taking Nebraska money line.
We need to get Miyagi teaching those.
Oh God. Okay. Miles Farmer's out, unfortunately suspended. He got a DUI, so that's a big problem too. I mean, do you see any roadmap to winning this game?
Gotten us all.
There's no question. I mean, there's no question about that. Do you see any roadmap to winning this game? I mean, you want to never say never, but it's like, man, this is the closest thing to like
something really good has to happen early and give us hope. I mean, this is a game where something's got to bounce our way. They got to make a big mistake, fumble, and we score. Something like that's got to go get us an early momentum. I mean, you've seen these games the last handful of years. Like these teams were like, we're going to get thrown. Sometimes you're just in it. And sometimes
Rutgers hung in there a little bit with Michigan last week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not impossible, but at the same time, it's just because what's hard is like, to me, I'm like, the game plan is Smothers, run it, control it. It's like, you're not going to be, it's really the best chance at beating them would be Casey and the bombs, right? I mean, you're not going to go like,
yeah, Trey Palmer, still Trey Palmer.
You're not going to go roll up your sleeves. You're like, all right, Michigan, put them up. Like, it's not what
you just got to play smart. And I mean, it's not out of this. It's not out of the realm of possibilities to win. Like we're good enough that we can beat Michigan 1 out of 15 times or something, or 20 times.
Whatever. Yeah.
That's all you got to do. This has got to be the 1 out of 20. But like, we're not beating this team half the time we play them. Not even close.
I'm nervous about this one. Really, really nervous about this one.
When Vegas says 30.
30, Doc. When
Vegas says 30, that's a big statement.
I'm just nervous at this game. I just hope that this game doesn't turn into, remember the Ohio State game when Tommy Armstrong got hurt early and it ended up 62-3 at Ohio State, or Frost year 1 at Michigan. That bitch was like 39-0 at half. It was like, I'm just.
But this is like where
it's wild. This team, Nebraska hung with this team last year.
I know, we had him beat, and then Adrian fumbled.
Right.
So this is where Mickey, you'll learn a lot about Mickey in this game. Like if we just get thromped, that's bad for Mickey.
Very bad.
Win or lose if we play tough and hang around, really good for Mickey.
Yes.
So this will be telling just like how focused and tough these guys, like, are these guys going to quit? Are these guys, like that's something you got to keep, as a head coach, find that thing to get your guys
right,
believing that you're going to win this week when nobody thinks you're going to win. Or Vegas says you're losing by 30 and you're like, we're going to do it. Like that's a hard
right
chasm to jump.
It's hard to I mean, the way to do it probably is if Casey's out, which you assume he is. I mean, probably just a lot of quarterback run game with Smothers and just hope you can catch him off guard with like some different looks with Smothers running the ball. And it's hard to, I mean, they're the number one rush defense. So it's hard to think that you're going to be able to, but you're going to have to do something different.
It's hard to stop that too.
I just don't think you can go back there and like have Chubba, try to do his best Casey Thompson impression against him. It's just not going to work on a variety of levels. So
please don't.
I don't know. I mean, I don't score position. 30's a lot. I mean, I don't think this weekend's going to go well, but
no, probably not.
All right, we are 90 minutes into this.
We've done it again.
We spent way too long on Jeff Monken.
It was so fun though.
Okay,
Nick, I'll tell you what. If we could do it over, I'd do it again.
That's okay. All right, so you took your flu shot and all that stuff. You're getting tired. Let's get you out of here. Let's go. Let's hit the hay. Let's go.
I'm out of here.
Let's go.